as amended. Thank you. Campbell Rhodes, all in favor? Thank you. Delegations, none. And next is water matters. So we have to report on, are you doing this, Mr. Zackler, or am I? I'm not sure whether.
I can read it out.
You go ahead and read it out then.
So we've got the report on expenditures from accounts payable for the water councillors and council's approval. Water district cash requirements to July 18th, 2016 are in the amount of $35,072.10 for council's approval. Options before council to approve water district cash requirements in the amount of $35,072.10, or option number 2, do not approve water district cash requirements, and the recommendation by staff is option number 1.
Okay. Are you seconding it? Okay. Any concerns about this? All in favor? Thank you very much. Did you get that, Mrs. Hilson, Ray, and Marrera? Thank you. And correspondence is next. I don't see any correspondence. So next is bylaws. And the first one is the Community Services Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Bylaw number 1180, Recreation Services Fees and Charges, needs to be updated with administrative changes and new additions. The Recreation Services Fees and Charges Bylaw should be changed to reflect our current name of Community Services. In addition to this name change, staff is bringing forward these recommended additions. Number 1, administrative fee for subsidy policy, a family rate of $100 and an individual rate of $50. Damage deposit for equipment facility needs in a range of $200 to $500. A zero charge for after hours access. And number 4, adding the grandstands at Desert Park with the rental of the infield. The administrative fee for subsidy policy, this new subsidy policy that was approved by council referred to an administrative fee, but no fee was identified. Staff is recommending that a $100 family fee and a $50 individual fee would be appropriate to give the service more value. The actual savings is significant if a family or individual was approved by the subsidy. A typical family of 4, 2 adults and 2 children, could utilize 50 drop-ins each for activities, including the weight room, 20 parent and taught drop-ins, and also receive a 75% reduction in select programs. Activity drop-ins for adults are rated at $4 each, parent and taught are at $3 each, and a 75% reduction for the Cactus Kids Camp as one of the programs they could actually use for the summer equates to significant savings. A typical family would see a value of $962 value, and they would pay the $100 admin fee and also pay an additional $110.50 to get that value of $962. A typical individual would get 50 free passes with a $200 value and a 75% reduction in a weight room orientation, and the value of that would be at $300. This $300 value, they would pay that plus the admin fee of $50 and a subsidized rate of $25 to get that value of $300. These are only examples of how the subsidy could work. Adults could also pay the 25% rate and join other programs as well. Number 2, the damage deposit for equipment facility needs. On occasion, we receive requests to supply tables and chairs, audio equipment, projectors, etc. for larger events. The fee is paid according to the current bylaw, but we do not charge any type of damage deposit for these specific items. If the equipment is returned damaged, we do not have anything to compensate for the damages. If we have a damage deposit that is flexible, we can charge different amounts for the type and amount of equipment that is needed. At times, we have had damages to our facilities, and this could also be applied to some special events, depending on the nature of the event and how the facility is utilized. Number 3, after-hours access. The after-hours access has been changed so that any annual pass holder can receive early morning access at no cost, but they still have to register for this service. In the past, our access to the weight room also included late-night use, and there was an extra annual charge of $50. At this time, the early morning access is Monday to Friday only, and the weight room opens at 6 a.m. The late night access has stopped after we had multiple offenders using the weight room without actually having passes and causing damages. These users also cause issues with the security as they did not have a code to disarm or arm the system. Staff has been called out repeatedly, and thus we had to stop the service. We currently have approximately 100 early access users, but we're expecting this to drop when the new gyms open. Number 4, the grandstands at Desert Park. This was discussed at our Community Services Advisory Committee meeting. Currently, if somebody wanted to rent the grandstands for an event, there is no associated fee. If they rented the entire facility and the grounds, there is a cost, but it might be more than what is needed. In the future, there may be groups who want to rent the grandstands and use the infield only. The best case scenario would be to add the grandstands to the current infield charge, as they would be used together if events are planned. If council prefers to have a separate charge specifically for the grandstands, staff could add a separate charge. In terms of implications for the community, streamlining the fees and charges bylaw will make it easier for the community to access recreational opportunities in an affordable manner. Organizational implications, updating the fees and charges bylaw in the class system, which is our recreation management software system. It'll take a little bit of time, but it won't be cumbersome. Significant dates, we would like to do this ASAP. One of the reasons why is because we have the actual subsidy policy in place, and we have had some people applying for it. Sustainability and assisting community members sustain an active lifestyle at affordable means. In terms of options, for council to accept amendment bylaw number 1180-10-216 and provide the first, second, and third readings. Option number 2, for council to send amendment bylaw number 1180-10-216 back to staff for further review. Or option number 3, for council to abandon amendment bylaw number 1180-10-216. And the option number 1, council may wish to proceed by directing staff to make minor changes to the amendment bylaw, such as having only one fee for the subsidy policy or not including the other proposed additions. The administrative fee is meant to provide more value, and there are numerous avenues to assist low-income users to pay for this service, such as the Spirit of the Games and Jumpstart.
Thank you very much. Can I ask, with the administrative fee and the subsidy policy, is it in the plans to limit the number of people who could have this subsidy over a year?
No, there was no plans.
No
to
limit on that, and there isn't a cost limit then on it.
No.
Okay, and that the other thing is that I'm glad you added 2 gyms, because I understand there's 2 opening up fairly quickly. Yeah, and I do know that we have Spirit of the Games, which offers which assists people. Can you explain what Jumpstart is?
Jumpstart is through Canadian Tire, and it's the same thing. It's a subsidy that they would pay for children trying to get into programs.
And do people need to, in order to get into any of these, do they need to fill out a form and present it to?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's an approved process.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCardoff. Well, I'll make an option based on the wording in option number 1, and no changes or suggestions or anything, just as is.
Second.
You'll second it. Do we have an amount in terms of damage deposit?
The reason we put $200 to $500 is if we get somebody who rents, say, 50 chairs, we would charge a lower amount. But we've had some just private party rentals come and using 40 tables and 200 chairs. We would charge a higher amount based on that, and that's why there was a range. But sometimes we get chairs back that are damaged, and we'll go back to, and we don't really have anything that we could charge. And we've had damage to the gym floor where we spent quite a bit of money on the floor, and we don't have anything to compensate. And sometimes people have just come right up and paid for certain things, but we really
Not
can't
always.
charge them nothing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that sort of answers my questions. So we have a mover and a seconder, and that we approve option number 1. Anybody else? No? All in favor? Thank you very much.
thank you.
And next is the OCP amendment by law, and is this our senior planner, Dilla Swang, please?
All right, thank you. So for the subject property located at 8316 92nd Avenue, the applicant proposes to amend the OCP designation from HR High Density Residential to LR Low Density Residential, and to rezone the property from R7 High Density Residential to R3 Low Density Residential in order to facilitate the future subdivision of 18 duplex lots. During the May 2nd, 2016 regular open meeting, Council passed the following resolutions: that Council give first and second reading to the OCP amendments bylaw number 1230.15 2016. That Council give first and second reading to the zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.94 2016, and that Council requests that the developer of the subject property set up a public open house and advertise at their cost in coordination with the Planning Department. Since a public open house has been held, the purpose of this report is to request that Council schedules a public hearing date for the proposed OCP and zoning amendment bylaws, which are attached. In order to provide residents an opportunity to ask questions and to find out more information about the proposal, a public open house was convened by the applicant and held on May 18th, 2016, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Sonora Community Center. Public notification was given by publishing the notice in the May 11th, 2016 edition of the Osoyoos Times, mailing individual notices to owners of properties within 60 meters of the subject property, and installing application signage on the subject property with the date, time, and location of the public open house. It is estimated that approximately 20 people were present at the public open house. Attendees were also able to provide comments and feedback via comment sheets that were made available by the applicant. A summary of the meeting along with the completed comment sheets are attached to this report. In terms of implications, so for the community, members of the public would have an opportunity to submit written responses and present comments or concerns with respect to the proposal at the public hearing. Organizationally, once a public hearing date has been set by Council, Planning and Development Services staff will prepare the public notification materials. In terms of budget, off-site upgrades will involve cost sharing between the developer and the town as determined in consultation with True Consulting. Significant dates. Staff recommends that a public hearing date be scheduled for Monday, August 15th, 2016 at 4 p.m. in the Council chambers. And in terms of options, so option number 1 is that Council sets a public hearing date for August 15, 2016 at 4 p.m. in Council chambers. And option number 2 is that Council recommends an alternative public hearing date. And in terms of recommendations, staff recommends option number 1.
Good, thank you very much. And you've included some maps and some comment sheets from
Yes.
people. I'm assuming when you're talking about off-site upgrades that the developer and the town will be doing, does that include fixing 92nd Avenue or widening it or putting in a sidewalk?
We are still discussing that in terms of the exact area of where the off-site upgrades would be. So, likely there would be, for example, a sidewalk put in, curb and gutter. So there would be different items that would have to be included as part of the off-site upgrades.
And Brayburn Place as well, is that? Okay.
Yeah.
So those have all been looked at?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. No, I think that this has been in the works for quite some time with various options, so it's nice to see that it's moving along. Councillor Campbell.
I'd like to move that Council sets a public hearing date for August 15th, 2016, 4 p.m. in Council chambers.
Thank you. All right. Is that seconded? Anybody else need to talk about this? Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much. Next is a zoning amendment bylaw, site-specific permitted use, and that's Ms. Swing again.
All right, thank you. So the purpose of this report is to request that council gives first and second readings to the attached zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.100 2016 to add a site-specific provision for the airport property legally described as Lot 2, Plan KAP 89085, District Lot 2450S, SDYD. The zoning bylaw text amendments include adding the following site-specific permitted uses for the subject property: indoor automotive storage, repair and restoration, and sales, as well as a caretaker suite with a maximum floor area of 100 square meters. Since the town is the owner of the subject property and has received an offer to purchase subject to the approval of the above-mentioned site-specific permitted uses, the town has agreed to act as the applicant for the zoning bylaw amendment. Overview. So in terms of the site description, as shown on the attached property location and aerial maps, the subject property is located on the north side of Highway 3 across from the Buena Vista Industrial Park. Situated to the south of the Osoyoos Airport, the vacant parcel is abutted by other vacant lands to the west and the east. It has a total area of 0.408 hectares and has access via a frontage road off of Highway 3. Proposed development. The prospective purchaser of the subject property wishes to construct a facility for the purpose of indoor automotive storage, repair and restoration, and sales. These uses are proposed to be located either within one building or within two separate buildings. A caretaker suite with a floor area up to a maximum of 1,080 square feet or 100 square meters is also proposed. So moving on to policy discussion. Located within the airport's industrial growth area, the subject property is currently designated as industrial in the town's official community plan. Applicable industrial development policies in the OCP include Policy 11-3, promote related industrial and commercial service uses in conjunction with the Osoyoos Airport. Policy 11-4, and it says to promote general industry on lands between Highway 3 and the Osoyoos Airport. And Policy 11-6, permitting accessory residence in any general industrial building for the proprietor's convenience and for added security. The proposed development will also be subject to a development permit application following the zoning bylaw amendment process, since the parcel is located within the industrial development permits area. So moving on to the zoning bylaw, the subject property, along with 6 adjacent lots, is currently zoned M1 General Industrial with site-specific provisions related to permitted uses and maximum building or structure heights. And this can be found in sections 8.22.2 and 8.22.3 of the zoning bylaw. Since the current list of site-specific uses does not include indoor automotive storage, repair and restoration, and sales, along with a caretaker suite, these additional site-specific permitted uses are proposed for the subject lots. Moving on to implications for the community, the proposed development would allow the prospective purchaser to locate an existing business and expand its operations within the community. Organizationally, the sale of the subject property is conditional upon the approval of the site-specific zoning bylaw amendment. If council gives first and second readings to the zoning amendments bylaw, the application will be forwarded to applicable referral agencies and departments for comments. Budget. The town is acting as the applicant for the zoning bylaw amendment. However, it will receive the proceeds of sale of the subject property once the transaction is closed following the approval of the bylaw. Significant dates. If council gives the zoning amendments bylaw first and second readings, staff recommends a public hearing date to be scheduled. And the report is currently recommended for August 8th, but because on that date both of our corporate officers are away, staff is recommending the following day, so Tuesday, August the 9th at 4 p.m. in council chambers. In addition, if council wishes to give the bylaw further consideration immediately after the public hearing notice will make mention of a special open meeting that will follow the public hearing. Sustainability. The proposed developments would contribute to economic sustainability by diversifying the uses at the Osoyoos Airport Industrial Subdivision lands. So the options for council include option number 1. Council gives first and second readings to zoning amendments bylaw number 1085.100 2016 and schedules a public hearing date. Option number 2 is that council requests any revisions to the amendments bylaw. And option number 3 is that council denies giving first and second readings to the amendments bylaw and the bylaw will be abandoned. And in terms of recommendations, staff recommends option number 1.
Thank you very much. Council, recommendations? Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to
Councillor
make a
Youngberg.
motion number 1. Council gives first and second readings to zoning amendment bylaw number 1085-100-2016 and schedules a public hearing date.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Rhodes, or Councillor Camp. Pardon me? Yes? All right. So we need 2 separate motions.
And you
So
want the
we
motion
will
for the public
give
hearing date?
first and second reading to the zoning amendment bylaw.
So first.
Okay, first, second. And so we will vote on that. Okay. Or did you want to speak to it first? Okay. We have it, and then we'll do the second one in a minute. Go ahead, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. Just a question. When we look at the sale of this property, we are in partnership with one of the ministries in the provincial government, I believe. And do they have any influence? Has there been any comments from them about this development, either for or against, or anything at all?
Well, right now, based on this particular development, once first and second readings, if these readings are given, staff will forward the application to the different departments for comments. And so, for example, the Ministry of Transportation would be one of the agencies that would receive this application.
Is it possible they could have a negative effect on the progress of this project?
Well, from my experience with the applications that I've forwarded to the Ministry of Transportation, they've been relatively quick in terms of their response. So they would, for example, they would provide, let's say, preliminary approval if they are all right with the proposal, and then afterwards, once the bylaw, before it gets adopted, they would provide final approval. So in my experience, they haven't been holding up on the applications that we forwarded to them.
Okay.
Is it because if council recommended it, they would look more favorably on it? Is that why?
Well, yeah, I just want to add that I think there's different provincial agencies involved here, and the allusion to the transportation one is that we have to refer any rezoning within 800 meters of a major intersection on a highway to them. But in this particular case, there's also the involvement with the provincial government as a partner. And we split the proceeds with them. Mm-hmm. And my understanding, and Jim can correct this if I'm not correct, that Barry has been in contact with them over this. Is that correct?
That is correct. So Integrated Land Management has been in direct contact with Barry. The offer for purchase, all of that stuff, everything is within market values, things of that nature. They have basically given their approval on this. So the only approvals that would go forward is on a development type of basis.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Perfectly, yeah.
Okay. So,
Can we hear the motion?
can we hear that motion, please? Just the one, the part of it, whatever it is.
That council give first and second reading to zoning amendment bylaw number 1085-100, 2016.
Good. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. Now, we need another motion to schedule a public hearing. Campbell Roads. Anybody want to talk about that one? So it's now on the 9th.
That's the proposed date, yes.
The 9th. All in favor? Thank you. We're quite pleased that this is moving forward. The two lots on the airport, beside the airport strip, have been for sale for quite some time, and this is a viable business that's going to employ several people in the town, and so we're quite happy to have somebody come and suggest this. So that's why we're keen on it. Okay, thank you. Next is the zoning bylaw amendment 1085. Mr. Cunningham.
Okay, so the copy of the report that you have before you is the same one which I'm going to be reading out at full at the public hearing this evening. I'm not going to go over the whole report with you additionally right now, but I do want to bring to your attention new information which you have the ability to talk about at this meeting, but would be constrained from doing so at the public hearing. So first of all, and I'll return to this later, but we did get some information from other municipalities as to what they're doing with respect to marijuana operations, and some tables were attached to your report just describing briefly what the impacts were in their responses. I also want to bring to your attention somewhat of a change with respect to implications on a community, and there were some concerns that was raised by Council and Councillor Campbell in particular, that some of the predictions that were made by staff were somewhat speculative at this time, so we changed that and said a long-term community-based approach to marijuana retail stores should balance their customers' convenience with land use compatibility for all residents and businesses. So that's a change compared to the previous one. Then there's also the question of a special meeting, and as the Senior Prime mentioned, we're talking about the 9th now. We'd like to piggyback the third reading of this bylaw onto that. I suggest 3:30 in the afternoon prior to the 4 o'clock public hearing. And then turning to recommendations, which I'll read out in full, I've hoped I've given some more detail and clarity to what staff were recommending in that regard. So staff recommends moving ahead expeditiously with zoning bylaw amendment number 1085-99-216 for the following reasons. A, allow council and staff to focus time and energy on developing a long-range and community-based zoning approach to marijuana retail stores without distractions from short-term pressures. B, reinforce current bylaw enforcement efforts and cooperative RCMP support to control any proliferating pressure from opening illegal outlets. Currently, staff refuse business licenses for retail outlets because they are illegal under federal law. But in a time of uncertainty and questioning around government intentions, it would help emphasize that the town does not condone retail outlets until further notice. One of the lawyer's reasons for recommending an interim ban on retail marijuana operations is by its very essence a zoning bylaw issue. That is the need to head off potential disputatious legal challenges that when council does put out a new regime planning regime in place, any existing outlets could claim to be legal as opposed to illegal non-conforming use. Such challenges could gain credence, for instance, if the town's current position on retail outlets is seen as uncertain and possibly creating tacit approval. And D, very importantly, clear town messaging should help businesses with their short and long-range planning. So any of those comments, council could return to that. In addition, we can talk about the inputs that we received from other municipalities. You have the the survey sheets in front of you. In addition, I just prepared a summary.
Page 52. Do you not have it on there?
Should have.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. I got it.
Thank you.
This is not.
Okay, thanks.
So I reviewed the comments to see if there was any commonalities and differences between them. And for the most part, there seems to be a fair amount of congruence between the relative impacts on the municipality with respect to the number of inquiries that they're receiving in illegal openings, ourselves included, and the response that's being made in terms of bylaw enforcement and a clear current policy and proactive measures, which is one of the things which we're discussing under this bylaw amendment. So as a benchmark, Soyuz, I would say, has been receiving medium impacts, and our response has also been medium. In many cases, you can see the impacts have been low and the response has been low, one could say appropriately. There are, however, some standouts in terms of differences, and I would draw attention to Nelson and Nanaimo. Nelson has had quite high impacts in terms of the number of openings that have already been allowed to proceed. I note from listening to the radio coming down the hill the other day that there seems to be a bit of a change of heart or position with respect to the mayor. She's now talking about taking some kind of resolution for support to use UBCM in terms of cost sharing on the revenue that would come from these operations with the federal government. And now, contrary to what seemed to be their previous posture, she's talking about zoning these operations to make sure, quote, that they're in the right place. Going back to the point I made before about the difference between legal and illegal non-conforming uses, the horse is already out of the stable, probably with respect to that, in terms of the operations they have in place. They have 6 of them already, and probably they're going to stay there. So their flexibility in terms of zoning those, I think, has passed them by. In terms of Nanaimo, I related this example to you previously, where the RCMP moved in. There were 6 illegal ones at that point in operation. They didn't have the resources to move in all 6 at the same time. They did close 3 down, and then laterally, with an apparent lack of support from council with respect to these operations, the RCMP withdrew their efforts. They now have something like 14 or 16 of them. So these are 2 noteworthy ones in your survey there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cunningham, for contacting these municipalities. I thought it was quite interesting to read through the questions that were sent to them and to see their responses. And I would say that many of them are dealing with the same issues that we are, and are, I think, looking at zoning. Many of them have that written down, and they've all agreed that unfortunately it's Ottawa has put us into an awkward position where we're having to regulate it, but in fact it is illegal while they come up with the legislation. So it sounds like many of these communities are dealing with the same concerns that we have. So I believe that is there anyone who wants to say anything, or there are 2 options here? And I'm wondering if council would like to make a motion on either one of the options. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Member Kordoff. Well, I'm going to try to avoid redundancy in my comments. I think we're all pretty much aware of where we're at with this change. Would it not be? I don't even know how to ask this question. I'll just do my best. Would it not be more appropriate for us to wait until after the meeting this afternoon, the public hearing meeting, before we move forward with this again? I'm not suggesting that anything profound is going to happen this afternoon, but there is an opportunity for the public to speak to us about this subject, and perhaps just erring with a little bit of caution that perhaps something will come forward this afternoon. I mean, I have no idea, and nobody can speculate on anything, but I'm just wondering if it I'm not feeling the same urgency to move forward with this as rapidly as we can. And thank you very much for gathering up that information.
Right.
I might be more confused than I was before because of the diversity of opinions that we got back, and every one of the circumstances is different right from I don't care to let's legislate everything and everything in between. So, but it was helpful and interesting to read through it, and I really wanted to thank you for that, because there's a lot of information in there, and that doesn't always come easy from other municipalities. So.
Well, there's certainly no urgency to talk about the issue right now in terms of relative council positions and with respect to approving and not approving the bylaw. However, and that's certainly going to wait third reading, but on the subject of third reading, I am proposing that we piggyback that meeting for the 3:30 on the 9th, so that we do keep moving it ahead. And that's consistent with our lawyer's recommendations. And then at that particular meeting on the 9th, then I would expect that there would be a full council debate, taking into account any comments that were made at the public hearing that we're going to receive later today.
Yes, Mr. Zackel.
With Director Cunningham proposing the date for the third reading, Council doesn't have to establish that by resolution. Basically, we need 24 hours notice to set up a special meeting. So we can proceed if that's one of the things, if everything's in place, and staff's got all the information to provide for council. As long as we give enough notice, we can, with council's approval, we can do the special open meeting, but we don't need to do it as a resolution to say this is a date that we're going to set for a third reading.
So are you suggesting that we not deal with either, a possibility is not to deal with either one of these options, but to leave it and do it at a later date, and we could quickly call a meeting if we wanted to with 24 hours notice?
You can do that with 24 hours notice, so that's council's option. It's not a requirement, but it's one of those that as long as we have 24 hours notice, we can call a special open meeting.
On the other hand, if we did choose one of these options today and decided that we would like to readjust that or change it, is it easier not to do it now and to wait until later, or do one now and then change it if need be?
Either way is fine.
Either way is fine.
Either way is fine.
Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you again, Member Kordoff. To me, so I'm going to make two comments. To me, it's crucial to provide an opportunity to every one of our residents to speak to us about this matter, and we are doing that at the public hearing this afternoon at 4 o'clock. And I want to say that again, I want to repeat myself, it is today, it's at 4 o'clock, and anybody that has an opinion about this, and this is me shamelessly promoting and pitching this meeting this afternoon, this is your opportunity to really let us know about it. And to me, gathering the information is what is primary. It's the most important thing. And every opportunity that we have to gather information, whether we, believe it or think or what our opinions are about information, it's always good to have it. And this is our real good opportunity this afternoon. And I know it's been advertised, and we've talked about it, and it is somewhat controversial, but if any member of the public has anything to say, today's the day to do it.
Okay, certainly good. I have to just make a clarification is that the meeting on the 8th, if you were to agree to that, would certainly allow for sober second thought after the inputs that you received at the public hearing tonight. We're not rushing things. We're not proposing that the third reading occur immediately following that meeting. What we're trying to do is to make up for the fact that in that particular month we're missing a council meeting, and instead of delaying things for a further 2 weeks, we just want to piggyback on the other meeting and have third reading. In terms of what Mr. Zackel is referring to, because it's not a public hearing, there's no requirement for you to pass a resolution in this meeting, but it would certainly be convenient for us in terms of our planning ahead for you to concur that, in fact, that's when you want to have the meeting.
Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Member Kordoff. I mean, I agree with Councillor Rhodes that I really would like to hear from the public on this. And the more time that goes by since we started the discussion, I'm less convinced that it's that controversial or passionate an issue. We've had the Osoyoos Times, the Oliver Daily News, the Osoyoos Daily News, Castanet, all write articles on it. And the level of engagement through comment sections was dismal, where I clearly stated a position that was mentioned in those articles and received very, very little feedback from the community. So hopefully Councillor Rhodes' pitch to the public to come out and tell us how they feel. And I think that is important. I mean, as everybody knows, I don't feel there's a rush to pass this particular bylaw, but I do think hearing from the public and seeing what kind of engagement we get this afternoon would be crucial.
That's fine. I totally understand that. Councillor Youngberg, did you have any concerns about it?
No, I just wanted to move ahead with the bylaw. I really wanted to see planning just be able to get their work done and bring it to third reading on August 15th.
And I guess from my point of view, I know we already have some meetings on August the 9th, so that I think there's 3 other things on the agenda that day that we are going to deal with. So it seemed like a good time to do it, or August the 15th, but I would hate to postpone this, dealing with this, because we have other things that are coming along. So I'd prefer to see either the 9th or the 15th. Councillor Rhodes?
I was just going to put a motion down that we piggyback on the one that's established on the 9th already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would be
somewhere in there was a motion.
that would be option 1.
The 9th at 3:30. Right?
Yes.
That's option number
Okay.
1.
Thank you very much.
So moved and seconded. Is there anyone else who would like to talk to this? So I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you. And what's next?
The DCC bylaw?
That's correct. The DCC bylaw. And that is, that's
Myself.
Mr. Cunningham. Go ahead, please.
Staff is requesting Council give third reading to attached development cost charges DCC bylaw number 1322216, which was prepared following a detailed technical report prepared by True Engineering. If adopted, the new bylaw would replace our current 207 DCC bylaw. The new bylaw sets out DCC charges which developers will have to pay for infrastructure projects needed in part or whole to service their proposed developments, either directly or indirectly, including water supply, sanitary sewer, storm drainage, municipal roads, and parks. Attached is staff's previous report number 2 presented to Council on July 4th, describing how 16 of the town's infrastructure project will be funded in part, or in some cases fully, through recoverable DCCs to be collected under the new bylaw. 7 of the projects are carryovers from our previous bylaw because of their benefits still accrued to new developments, while the remainder are new. The following table shows that the new proposed DCC rates are considerably higher, are generally higher, not considerably, generally higher compared with the current ones. These changes reflect inflationary increases, projected population growth, and the fact that some existing infrastructure now needs upgrading. Our benchmark low-density residential DCCs will increase by 10.7% per dwelling or lot unit, but comparative information provided by True shows we will remain competitive with other communities, especially those like ourselves offering full municipal services. Implications: Community Council convened an advertised public meeting at 4 p.m. on July 4th, but no members of the public attended to provide input to the proposed new bylaw. Organizational, the Planning and Development Services Department collects DCCs as part of the development application process. Budget: DCCs provide a sizable share of our capital costs for major infrastructure projects. Significant dates: after third reading, the bylaw will be referred to the Provincial Inspector of Municipalities for approval before Council considers final adoption. Concurrent with adoption, staff will request Council to approve transitional policies for in-stream development applications already in place. Sustainability: modernize and expand our community infrastructure to provide high-level quality services to residents and visitors and to support and promote future growth. Options: Option 1, Council gives third reading to development cost charges DC bylaw number 1322216, or Option 2, requires bylaw revisions. Staff recommends Option 1 because of the careful consideration that went into bylaw preparation and the fact that an opportunity was provided for public feedback.
Thank you very much. We have we've gone through this bylaw a couple of times. It's being updated carefully. It hasn't been updated for about 10 years, so
Correct.
It was time to do it. So is there anybody who would like to make a motion? Thank you, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. I'll move that Council gives third reading to development cost charges bylaw number 1322 of 2016.
Thank you. And Councillor Youngberg has seconded that. All in favor? Thank you very much.
You.
So we're now going on to business, right? Business number 1, and that is a council meeting report of a meeting, and it says Mayor's Coalition, but that probably should have included that it was for Highway 3, and it was over in Rossland, and the mayors from Hope all the way over to the Alberta border meet occasionally and discuss ways to try and increase tourism. On Highway 3, we're trying to rebrand the highway as not just the Crow's Nest Pass, which seems to be the common name, but as also the electric highway. And so there are lots of charging stations being put in across there, and that's where I was. So could I have a motion, please, to accept this?
I think everything's been so agreeable to this point that we should debate this furiously for at least a half an hour.
Go right ahead.
A motion to approve.
Thank you. Seconded. All in favor? Thank you very much. Okay, business number 2 is a resort municipality cost-sharing agreement. Mr. Zackel.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. The province has agreed to funding the resort municipality program for 2016-17. The amount Oswego will receive is in 2016 is $390,335. Each year, the province reviews the resort municipality program, and once the processes are completed and funding for projects within the resort municipalities are approved, the province provides the municipalities with the cost-sharing agreement to be approved by both the town of Oswego and the province of BC. The projects listed in Schedule A include trail development connectivity, wayfinding interactive signage, beach cleaner, boat trailer parking, downtown revitalization, visitor activity enhancement, waterfront safety, waterfront enhancement. Implications for our community: allows for improvements for the community to enjoy. Organizationally, no additional requirements. Budget: secures $390,335 in funding for April 2016 to March 2017, and the funding is included in our 5-year financial plan. Significant dates: funds will be distributed within 30 days of signing the agreement. Sustainability: secures funding for continued improvement and upgrades for the town of Oswego. Options before council: for council to authorize the mayor and corporate officer to sign the cost-sharing agreement between the town of Osoyoos and province of BC, or option number 2, to not authorize signing the agreement. And a recommendation from staff is option number 1. This allows for the continued improvements in tourism infrastructure for the town of Osoyoos.
Thank you very much. And if we don't come up with this, we could lose the funding, because at this point it only goes until December of 2017. So anybody, again, all of the mayors from the 14 resort municipalities in BC are very keen to meet with the ministers and keep this going. We see this as a worthwhile project, and we've certainly seen lots of evidence of that in Osoyoos over the years. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor McCord. If I can't say enough about this program, I think it's had a huge impact to the projects that we've put together in this community because of this funding. So very easy for me to motion option number 1. Option number 1.
Good. Thank you. You seconding that? Anybody else? Okay. Did you go ahead, please?
Just to echo some of those comments, this program in our province is absolutely brilliant, and you could never underestimate the positive impact it's had on our community. And this is one of those reports that you put down in front of you and you read through it and you wonder why there is even an option number 2 on it. But I certainly understand the reason why. But yeah, just an absolutely great program. It's done so much for our community, and we would support this hopefully well beyond 2017 as well.
Good. Thank you. So all in favor of the motion? Thank you. That's carried. Next is the request to video a public hearing. Mr. Zackler, are you going to deal with that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor McCordoff. So I've got a report from our CEO. Background here is Richard McGuire from the Osoyoos Times has requested an opportunity to videotape the public hearing session on July 18th. This request is being brought forward for Council's decision. Currently, our Council meetings and public hearings are recorded live on Granicus. This is a live feed that is saved unedited and available on the town's website. This keeps the meetings open to all who want to watch or review to see the business being dealt with by Council. Council Procedure Bylaw Number 1271-2010, Part 9, Section 86, states that recordings, be it video, audio, or both, of Council or committee meetings are prohibited unless permitted by resolution of Council passed by a majority of those attending the meeting. By allowing a third party or outside source the ability to videotape or record Council meetings, Council has no control over third party editing and or showing only a portion of the meeting or decision-making process. The recording on Granicus is complete and unedited. This policy was originally developed to ensure that videotaping of a Council session was managed to avoid Council members, administration, and public being subjected to editing that misrepresented the proceedings or comments at the meeting. This situation may develop when persons taking video have personal agendas related to subject matter or their operations of Council. The media, although subject to editorial opinion, also has a responsibility to report the news. In this situation, the public hearing involves Council listening to interested parties representing their views on the matter of zoning out marijuana businesses until federal legislation is completed. Council must be conscious that members of the public are informed and they are being videotaped on Granicus system, and if approved, may be subject to video that would appear on local media. One would hope that these methods of exposure of their views will not deter interested parties from making their views known to the public. Under implications for the community, is there another page missing?
One paragraph.
Council's business plan.
Oh, okay. I'll take this one. Council's business plan identifies a goal of increasing transparency of Council's business and keeping an informed public. To complete this goal, Council may use as many credible resources as possible to deliver the information to the public. The evolution of community reporting has developed to daily news sources with video to support the news item. Implications for our community. Community benefits from a public that is informed on current developing community issues. Organizationally, the community uses as many sources of information and the challenge to ensure that Council business is represented in a true and timely manner. Nothing to report on budget. significant dates, council must make a decision on this request at this meeting so that a decision can be implemented for the afternoon public hearing, and nothing to report on sustainability. So the options before council: option number 1, for council to deny the request to videotape the public hearing on July 18th, and option number 2, for council to approve the request to videotape the public hearing on July 18th. And the recommendation, the CAO recommends option 2, that council pass a resolution approving the request to videotape the public hearing on July 18th. The local media is reporting community news with technology and reporting methods that have evolved to providing video feed of council meetings. This has been part of the television media's method for operation for years and has included editing and proceedings. Many communities allow television cameras to video portions of council meetings to enhance reporting on council business. There is little difference between allowing television media to video council meetings and this request to video portions or all of the public hearing. Approval of this request will enable council to continue to achieve its goal of legislative transparency using the community resources of local media. The CAO also recommends that all presenters be made aware of the Granicus and local media coverage of the public hearing proceedings. Approval of this request still enables council to safeguard the credibility of future council information and proceedings by approving future requests. That's the end of Barry's report.
Thank you very much. This issue has been quite recent, and we've, I think, all been thinking about it quite a bit over the weekend. So I'm going to ask any councillors if they would like to speak to this or make a motion. No? So I'm going to be first then. Okay. I would recommend, and I won't make the motion, I would recommend that we not allow this videotaping, and for several reasons. One, it is not allowed in the bylaw at the moment, and I know it can be changed, and it can be allowed through a majority of the people present. We do have these unedited versions live on Granicus, which is available to anyone. And I think that is certainly our way of being transparent. My other concern is that there is a possibility of editing some of the video, and I think that could change what is the intent of the meeting and of what people are saying. And the other thing is that this has been very recent. We really haven't had enough time to consider all the implications of this. Some staff are away. We've had to kind of scramble to put this together. Mr. Romanko did this report while he's in Alberta on holiday over the weekend. I just think, in fairness to everybody involved, that it makes more sense to look at this a little bit more carefully, to find out how we could best use videotaping that would not cause a concern with editing or with other people in the community wanting to come in and videotape some of the proceedings. So for those reasons, my recommendation is that that we not allow it at this time, because we would have to deal with it right now for a meeting in an hour, and I'm just not comfortable with that time frame. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this? Councillor Campbell.
I want to be clear with what I'm about to say, that it's not in any direct relation to specific media, local media, national media. I look at especially what electronic news has become, and this sounds horrible, and the attention span of the average reader of reading headlines and reading enough that we don't always provide context. I mean, you look at elections at the national level and the local level, and we see examples of this all the time through editing, through headlines. I like the fact that we have an avenue now where anybody that wants to see our council meetings or our hearings in full context is as transparent as you could be and as easily accessible as it can be. It concerns me of, I guess, so to say, opening Pandora's box here. With allowing this type of request, there'll be many, many, and we're really at the mercy of the integrity of the people filming at all times. That concerns me, and it also concerns me, I think, as the mayor mentioned, the timeline in which we've been able to deliberate and think about this is a matter of days for something that I think is a significant change in how we do things. I'd feel differently about it if we didn't already have the means to, for the public to see everything we do in an open council meeting, committee of a whole meeting, or a public hearing. But we already have that, so I don't see this as something we need to rush to, that there's a huge benefit to the public, or that it strengthens our position as far as being transparent.
Thank you. Councillor Rhodes?
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. Well, I'd like to make a motion based on option number 1, that council deny the request to videotape the public hearing on July 18th, and I would like to speak to that as well.
Okay. Somebody's going to second that motion? Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. Thank you. Councillor Rhodes, go ahead.
Thank you again. Well, one of the advantages of being a veteran, to coin Councillor Campbell's reference to myself rather than old, I was here when we crafted this bylaw, and the reasons that we did it were very well thought out. There was a fair amount of debate that went on about it, most of it designed to not only word the bylaw that we have right now, but to make sure that it was considerate of everybody that was involved in it. And one of the regrettable things that happened is that people began to videotape an awful lot of what we were doing. And we did have a budget session where it kind of went all sideways and everything, where there was a camera mounted by somebody that used that information to mock the process. Somebody took information that we had, through our transparency programs and all of the things that we had developed, and use it just to make fun of us and mock us. And, that doesn't sit very well with people that are genuine out there trying to do, the right thing during the budget process and that kind of thing. The requester here was for, I believe, only a one-time video thing. When I first read it, I thought, well, what harm could that do? But I really concur with some of the comments that Mayor McCordoff made regarding a little bit of time to think this through. This is not an absolute no for never. This is, my motion that I put forward would deny it for this one particular request. The requester should put together a bit of a plan, and I think we did talk about this earlier, and come to council with that plan and give us an opportunity to think it through a little bit longer, and perhaps come up with maybe some kind of a variance in the existing bylaw or change it. And for that reason, I would be speaking in favor of the motion, of course, because I put it on the floor for one thing. But that's kind of what my wording to support that particular thing. It's not the end of the world. It's only this one thing today. And if there's any desire by anybody, not only this requester, to do it, they always have the opportunity to come to us with a plan that we can debate and come up with resolution at the end of that.
Thank you. Councillor Youngberg.
Speaking in favor of the motion, I, really suggested that a personal presentation and the means of what the request was made for was very important to us. And of course, I think this isn't an end-all be-all. We'll certainly look favorably, possibly, at further presentations, but what is fair for one is fair for all. And we certainly could be looking forward to 2 or 3 cameras sitting here videoing our public hearings in future, and I don't think that's a good idea. So based on that feeling of mine, I am in favor of the motion.
Thank you very much. Would you like to say something again, Councillor Rhodes? Okay.
If I could, just one other thing that kind of, in retrospect, came out. For the longest time, we had Channel 18. It's morphed from a couple of different things. It was always the same person doing it. And I want to use that example as an opportunity for other people to come forward. We've the credibility was there with that Channel 18. They did a really good job. It was always unedited, and a lot of people threw popcorn into their microwaves and sat down as a form of entertainment to watch that. And we really encouraged that particular process. So just to mention that. Channel 18 is not here, has not been here for some time now, certainly through no fault of ours. We did not discourage him. There were some personal dynamics that kicked in and caused it not to be here. We have requested, and I think we received some fairly positive information back from them that they will be getting geared up to bring it back here again, just to demonstrate that we are very open-minded about this, and we just need that opportunity for debate.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. That was a good point. So definitely it's been 6 months since we've had Channel 18 here, Eastlink, and many people have said to us, gee, I used to sit down and watch this at dinner time, and why don't you have it on again? Well, I would suggest that if anybody's would really like to see it again, and obviously many people do, that they contact Eastlink and request it, because our understanding was that it would be coming back. Thank you very much. So we need to vote on this. So could you read the motion, please, Mrs. Hilson?
That council denied the request to videotape the public hearing on July 18th, 2016.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. So on to the next item, notice of motion. We do not have a notice of motion. Reports. This is general, net payroll, and Sunbowl Arena financial accounts. To report on expenditures from accounts payable for council approval and payroll information for council to receive. So general cash requirements are in the up until July the 18th, 2016, representing balances in the following funds. General cash requirements, $373,959.45, and Sunbowl cash requirements of $15,467.80, and those would be adopted by consensus. And net payroll amounts of $81,651.48, and that would be received for information. We don't have to accept that report. Okay. Next is the building report for the month, and you see it up there on the screen. So we have had some garden shed, interior, exterior alterations, a garage, more interior alterations, and expansion of a galley kitchen. For the month, a total of $212,000, and total to date in 2016 is $2,676,000, and total to date last year was $3,734,200. I believe last year it was quite a bit higher because of the fire hall. Was that it? Yeah, good. Thank you. So do we need to have a motion to receive that report as information? Thank you. Councillor Rhodes Campbell, all in favor. Bylaw enforcement. So bylaw enforcement, you will see many of the park attendants and bylaw people out and about in their blue shirts with bylaw on it. We appreciate that. It's much easier to find them now that they all have matching shirts. So quite a few offenses for the month of June. Dogs 280, alcohol 347, nuisance 24, tightrope. That's between the trees, and yeah, that's quite an interesting one. 9, inappropriate clothing. No pictures of that, but there's 4. Boat in a swimming area, 7. Smoking, 253. Skateboard, 26. And parking on the grass, 4. So the as of June 1st, the shifts are from 12 noon to 1 a.m., and according to our bylaw expert, we had a rough start at the beginning of the month with transients and with the RCMP. They wrote 5 expulsion letters to gain control of the parks, and the last week of June was good, and beach volleyball teams started to play. I think that because of the weather, and also because I think a lot of our the people who come here to work in the orchards have probably moved up the valley. Things are a little quieter down at the beach. Bylaw and park attendants will continue to enforce the park bylaws and maintain safe environment for everyone to enjoy. And there is an enforcement report, which I don't think I will read, but several animals that fortunately Pat Marshall is very good with cats and dogs, and she just comes and takes them and deals with them right away. So we appreciate that. So I'm just going to read the last page. June the 9th, and bylaw attempted to serve a warrant to the owner of a pit bull with an RCMP member. However, when we arrived, the dog has relocated to Alberta. For the month of June, there were 22 unsightly properties, 15 for second inspection, and 7 new complaints. And I just want to point out that I've heard a couple of times recently that somebody has contacted me, or if they've come into the office and they said, we got a letter saying that our property is unsightly and we don't see that it is. And so I believe that somebody may be taking pictures of it and sending it to Bylaw. They are required to deal with it. But if you get a letter and it's not your property, please phone us. We don't want you to be upset by something that is not your fault. So please contact Town Hall if you have a concern about that, and the bylaw officer will deal with it. So Bylaw has noticed that in June there were more infractions with the transients coming into town and causing problems in the park. RCMP wrote 5 expulsion letters, already said that. 5 reports of illegal camping, more infractions with drinking and dogs off leash in the park, and more calls with dogs at large. So they continue to do a great job, and it's not a job that I would be thrilled to have, but I'm so happy when I see them down there. They're doing a terrific job. Thank you. So do we need to accept that as information? We don't need could we have a motion, please? Okay, thank you. That would be Rhodes Campbell. All in favor that we receive the information? Thank you. Committee reports. We have a Community Services Advisory Committee, and none of us were at that meeting, but it looks like they have.
Councillor King, isn't it?
It says regrets, so he wasn't at that one. I think several other people were at these meetings, and they. This is certainly available for people to read if they would like to, but I don't think I'll read the whole meeting. We just know that used to be called the Rec Committee, didn't it? And now it's called Community Services Advisory Committee. So we're happy that they're meeting and dealing with several of the issues around town. We need to have it received? Okay, a motion to receive this report. Councillor Youngberg,
yep.
You okay with that?
Sure.
Councillor Rhodes, thank you. All in favor? And next is the CAO report. Do you have one, or?
The only thing I have to report on our CAO is he's a proud new grandpa.
Oh, good. And it's a little boy, I believe, is it?
Baby boy, yes.
Good. Well, we're very happy. Mr. Romanko is on a holiday. He will be back on the after the long weekend, and we will expect a report from him at the next meeting. So we'll go on to councillors' reports, and Councillor Youngberg, you're first.
Okay. Right off the bat, I just want to commend our Public Works Department for taking care of some things that have been, ongoing for a while, which are the doggy bags and the little butt holders on Main Street. We have seen, as a Main Street occupant, we've seen such a huge improvement and people using them. And since I haven't had the opportunity to walk the walkway for a few months, I'm hoping the same thing has happened on the walkway, because that was a real concern last summer. It was a problem. Beach volleyball, I don't know if anybody goes down to be entertained by all the beach volleyball that goes on at Gyro Beach on Wednesday evenings, but also commending to Amy Barch for continuing with that whole league of real interesting people, and of course it's really exciting to watch. And also our bylaw officers, as Mayor McCordoff has just said, the bylaw officers are doing a great job, and our compliments to Pat, and especially little Emerald, who is always visual. She's a real great little girl, and I'm sure all the rest do a good job as well. And that's about all I have to report. Other than that, I've had the opportunity to be in other hospitals over the last week and a half, and I can tell you that we are so lucky to have the South Okanagan Hospital and all of our medical attendees that help us in this area compared to some of the other experiences I've had. I'm really happy to report that we're lucky.
Thank you very much. And next is Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. Well, I'm going to use this opportunity to try to explain something rather than report out on things that I've been doing. We've been very much engaged in marijuana controversy in our community, and zoning and where we want these businesses to be located if it ever becomes legal in our country. And at the last meeting, I made a comment that I had visited dozens of marijuana stores. And I, thank you very much to our local press and media for being deadly accurate in getting that comment in the written aspect. But you know what? It just was not true. And I don't know what else to say other than the fact that I have never been in a marijuana store. I have no idea why I said that. And I've always been a firm believer in that old saying about saying what you mean and mean what you say. In this particular case, I failed at that miserably. What I had meant to say was that I'd done a lot of research on it, and that I feel very confident in saying, and I wish I would have thought it through a little bit more carefully last time. And the irony of the whole situation in doing that is that Councillor Campo commented about the lack of response from our community on this particular issue. I received one very, very casual phone call about, good job, thank God you're putting it in the right location and you're working in that direction, and 40 phone calls from people wondering about where do you get the time and how do you do it, and where are all these stores, and what do they look like? So I wanted to set the record straight on that. It's not me, and clearly it's not the way that I do things. I think probably if I was walking by one, I definitely would go in and do some research or whatever in there, but I just kind of wanted to add that to my report today, and I think I've done that, so that would be the conclusion of my report. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Did you also want to talk about the possibility of a library card?
Yeah, save that for next meeting. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you. We'll be careful not to speculate at what level and how in-depth that research would be, Councillor Rhodes, but I don't have a lot to report. I did want to say that a meeting took place roughly a week ago in the community with some community leaders and some just people that were interested regarding the Good Shepherd Christian School. And it was just another example of people with the means and with, I guess, the resources to try to help the situation came together, as we seem to always do in this community for different reasons, to try to see if anything could be done to save this school, as there seems to be a need amongst few for a school like this in the community, and unfortunately not many. At the end of the day, the school did close, and I just wanted to, I guess, thank Angela and everybody else that was involved in running that school as an alternative, and for really looking at anything they could possibly do to keep it open. So I just wanted to thank them, and it's an unfortunate conclusion, but it certainly wasn't from lack of effort. And the only other thing I want to talk about is that I'm seeing more and more of, and it is something I'm passionate about, is art in the community, whether we're talking about live music, visual art. I'm seeing more and more things pop up. I'm seeing retail locations showcasing local artists, the Three Amigos, JoJo's doing live music and things like that. And I love seeing it. I think hopefully it stays contagious and we see more and more of it, because I think it's an amazing thing to showcase the talent we do have in the community and give our residents and visitors something to see beyond the sunshine and the lakes here. So that's my report.
Thank you very much. And I believe you also have over at the Cantina, you have music over there as well, don't you? So we've seen lots of music in town recently, and I believe there was an art show at the Desert Center this weekend, so visual arts. So I was at the street dance on Saturday night. I was also at Music in the Park the night before. I do not get up and dance, which is why I left quickly when one of the line dancers suggested that I should come up and learn and dance, and I begged off on that one. However, they are amazing efforts by community volunteers, and I absolutely say thank you to all of them. The Three Amigos for putting on Music in the Park every Friday night until the end of August. And it was very well attended last Friday. I think there was about 260 people there. Bring their own chairs and they sit there and have fun. So it's a great event. And also on Saturday night, I have to thank Clint Hawes, who's like the Energizer Bunny. He ran a street dance from 7 until 10, had all kinds of people up, including one of our newest RCMP members, and Yannette from Fashion 8, and they won a prize for their dancing. They were phenomenal, and there was probably another couple of hundred people down there on Saturday night at the street dance. So thank you to Clint. I know he is putting on another one. I believe it's about the middle of August. I was also last week I was at the Penticton Regional Hospital. They had sort of a thank you for people who had donated money to try and build the tower. It's a huge cost, $320 million. I'm thinking that's something like what it is. The regional district, the hospital district, contributes quite a lot of money towards that, as does the provincial government. And there's a lot of private people that have donated money as well. And I feel very strongly about it, so I donated some, so that was why I was invited, more than just being the mayor. And then we went over to the grounds of the hospital and did the sod turning, and that's pretty amazing. The building is now officially underway. It should be open, I believe, in 2019. And it will have huge impact for this area. So it's a regional hospital, and there are some. We had some people here this morning for medical interior health. There are some specialists who have already moved into the area, Penticton or close around, because they knew that this hospital was going to be built, and they were so impressed. One gentleman and I think his name is Mr. Campy. He, I think, had Peter Brothers Paving. He donated, and this was common knowledge, he donated quite a lot of money towards the building, and specifically $3 million to have an MRI machine and to have it maintained at the hospital. Right now they have one, and it's a movable one. It can be taken other places. It was felt that they needed one, a stationary one at the hospital, and so he donated $3 million towards this. Apparently they needed, for this plus what they were expecting from residents and private people, $23 million. They are already at $15 million, and so that's pretty amazing. So that was a fun event to be at. Another place that I was at was the Okanagan Correction Center. Now I've been there 4 times, about every 6 months since they started building, and have seen the progress in that building. It's extremely well done, well managed. They've had, I don't know how many hours, but there has not been one accident because they're so careful. They're so well trained there that it is 88% complete. They are on time and on budget, and the project manager is going to turn over the keys to Corrections BC at the end of September. Approximately 2 weeks after that, sometime around the middle of October, there will be an open house, and it will be before any of the inmates are moved in there. They're expecting to hire the rest of the staff, do some training, make sure everything works, and it is high tech. You won't believe it. You will not see a fence around this this correctional center, because once you walk through the door, you're inside. There is no way of escaping, and it's phenomenal. So I would highly recommend that if you're at all interested, that you go to visit the correction center. They will advertise it over 2 days. I believe it was around the 14th, 15th of October. What they were asking us was, it would be nice to ask people to bring a donation for something, or make a donation to a service group. So Mayor Hovanes and I decided that the food bank would be a fairly good one, because anybody who donated food to the food bank, at the end of the day, what they would do is divide it in half, and half goes to Asuias, half goes to Oliver. So that was, I think you'll read more about this when it gets closer to that time, but I highly recommend that you go and see this. It's phenomenal, and it's very well built. They've thought of everything, and I think that rather than actually get put inside there, this would be a better option if you wanted to see the inside of this correction center. I don't think anybody wants to be in the door in one of the cells, although I did go into one of the cells and have the door closed so I could experience what it was. And I don't think it would be a great experience in there. However, there's lots of interesting things being done there, so it's a very good project, and hopefully will help people in the South Okanagan. We expect, I think there's about 400 people that are going to work there, and I think that it could bring some families to the South Okanagan and be a bit of an economic impetus. So we're happy to see it. Okay, I don't think I have anything else to add. We do have a public meeting at 4 o'clock, which is in half an hour. So for now, I would like to have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much. Campbell Rhodes, all in favor? Thank you, everybody.